Hi, friends. How are we? And welcome into another edition of the Racing Angle. This one titled 4 for 4. Given that it's episode 4, we felt it was appropriate. Hi, I'm Logan Morris, and welcome in, as I said, to the Racing Angle. And I'll be with you for about the next hour or so, and we got a lot to talk about and a little time to get there. Peyton is back on the ones and twos, and so we're just gonna take some time here. We're gonna relax. We're gonna break some things down. And look, I hope you had a wonderful holiday. I know I did. We had the festivities, the turkey, the ham, the stuffing. Oh God, the stuffing. That's my favorite thing. And just hope you had a wonderful holiday. And if you haven't, if you didn't celebrate Thanksgiving, because I know that you might be Canadian like our man Freddie Bannister, coming in already saying good words. I mean, that's just so kind, Freddie, so kind. We do appreciate it. All right. So, what's going on in the world of NASCAR? Well, there's only one thing really going on in the world of NASCAR, and that is the lawsuit, right? The antitrust lawsuit. And that is a very controversial topic. I'm not a lawyer. I don't intend to play one here. I don't know what classifies as antitrust or monopoly or any of those things. So I want to be very clear on that. I'm not going to speak to the legality of the case. All right, they're having a trial. They're having a trial, and they're gonna solve all that, and however it turns out, it's how it turns out. I hope justice prevails. What I want to talk about is how bad it looks for the sport. It's how bad it looks for the sport, folks. That's what I want to talk about. It is such a bad look. All right. In case you have lived under a rock for whatever reason, or have missed it, or have tried to avoid it, 2311 and Front Row Motorsports are suing NASCAR in the antitrust lawsuit over the charter negotiations and being monopolistic. Again, I'm not going to speak to the legality of it. Who's right? Who's wrong? I really don't. I don't know because I'm not a lawyer. Freddie, we appreciate it, brother. Look, we tried to do it. We did some damage at Thanksgiving, no doubt about it. And we look forward to doing some damage again at Christmas. It's going to be wonderful. But I want to talk about this lawsuit. This looks so bad for the sport. Since we've last talked 2 weeks ago, so much has come out. I mean, the leadership of NASCAR called in private texts that were made public through the discovery process, called Richard Childress a dumb redneck who needs to be flogged, is what Steve Phelps said. And in case you don't know what that means, it's pretty much taken out back and beaten. And I just think that is such a horrible look for this sport. I think it's such a horrible look for the sport. Richard Childress is an all-time legend. As an owner, as a driver, he is a lifer. He is somebody that has given his whole life to stock car racing and the brand of it and building it up and all of those things. And obviously, look, there's been a lot of tension in this whole process of the charter negotiations and now the lawsuit. And so I want to be fair to Steve Phelps and the brass of NASCAR, and say I understand emotions can get the better of us. We've all said some things privately in text that we probably would like to take back and probably should not have said. So I want to respect that fact. But if that's how you feel about a lifer, if that's how you feel about somebody that has given the sport his entire career, I don't know if you're the person fit to be leading the sport, especially without a public apology, without some sort of public acknowledgement of like, hey, this is wrong. It was frustration and yada, yada, yada. Now, I know the rumor is that Steve Phelps called Pop to let him know that hey, that's not how I feel about you, and I was frustrated. My bad. Um, I don't think that's enough in this case. I think it needs to be a public apology uh, to just kind of humble yourself a little bit, right? Humble yourself and do what's right for the sport. Because if that's how you're talking about a lifer, I just have my doubts that you should be the guy that runs the sport. If Steve Phelps was the president at the time, now he's in the newly announced and made commissioner position. That is just, I mean, what do they say about other lifers in private? What do you say about Jared Roush? What do you say about the King? What do you say about Rick Hendrick? What do you say about Roger Penske? Guys that have given literally their entire lives to the sport of NASCAR. I just that just really rubbed me wrong, and it showed me how nasty the NASCAR leadership can be. And again, the the legality of it. Here's how people view it, in my estimation. People don't care unless you're some sort. People don't care unless you're some sort of diehard Denny fan or diehard NASCAR fan in terms of just really supporting the brand. Freddie says if the comments are true from what he said, it won't look good on him in the sport. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm worried about, Freddie. Is I think this is such a bad look for the sport. I don't really care who wins. I hope whatever's best for the sport ends up being the right result. And I don't mean that I'm siding with NASCAR, the brand. I mean that I'm siding with what I hope pushes the sport forward in a proper direction. That's it. Because that's what we care about, right? It's NASCAR, the sport. And to have that sport, you have to have the sanctioning body, and so I don't want it to go under or fail. But if it needs to make changes to be more fair, I'm okay with that. I do struggle to understand how you tell somebody else to run their business. I do, especially a private owned entity. I struggle with that, but whatever. That's just my take. The thing about this is, it looks bad because it's billionaires fighting with billionaires or millionaires fighting with billionaires. People tune out and they don't care. They don't care. They think most people go, I'm surviving paycheck to paycheck. Maybe you're doing a little bit better than that. But we're talking about bundles of money that most of us have never seen and will never see. So people don't care. It just looks bad for the sport. It makes the sport look whiny. It's like the 1994 MLB strike. Whoever's right or who's wrong, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Yeah, I mean, it has gotten out of hand. The $45 million, that they're paying now. I think Legacy paid upwards of like 50 for what's going to be the Rick Ware charter that they'll have in 27. I mean, the big money's gotten out of hand. Number one, but again, people don't care. People look at it and they go, I'm talking about the general public. There are some true diehards that have, there's a lot of lawyers out there, quote unquote. There's a lot of lawyers on X that, this means this and this means that. And I got news for all of you. You all need to get a life, number one. And number two, you don't know the law. You don't know the law. But because, look, it's an insult to the people that work their ass off to go to law school. And nobody can tell me these people on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, or social media as a whole, don't have what's known as confirmation bias on both sides. You're looking for things that confirm your theory. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it should be acknowledged. And everybody, like I said, everybody all of a sudden has got a law degree. Sit down. We'll see how it all pans out. For the record, I think whoever loses this verdict is going to appeal said verdict, and this will be dragged out some more. Don't know that. Can't prove that. We'll see what happens. It is just so silly to me that it's lost on the PR side. Denny Hamlin, he posted on X, "I'll never quit fighting for you guys and what's right." What an absolute crock. And I'd say the same thing if NASCAR social media said that. You're not fighting for us. You're not fighting for the betterment of us. You're fighting so you can get more money. More money. And I'm not saying you don't deserve it. I'm not saying you do. I don't know. Based on some of the figures, I'm inclined to probably say, yeah, you probably deserve a little bit more. But let's not act like Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin are hurting here. Michael Jordan's net worth, higher than NASCAR's net worth as a business. And it just, people don't understand how bad that looks to the sport when people are fighting paycheck to paycheck. Oh, these millionaires and billionaires are going to sue each other. Meanwhile, I'm doing all I can to keep the lights on. People want to watch racing. People want to see the drama of silly season. People think this looks disingenuous and ugly. Don't believe me? Look how every labor dispute turns out in the public for the game of baseball, the game of football, NBA. Because people don't care about legalities when it comes to sports. They might say, oh, yeah, they probably should get more. But it's still Denny Hamlin makes $14 million on his own for Joe Gibbs Racing. That's just Joe Gibbs Racing. That's just his salary as a driver. People don't give a rat's furry ass. And he's going to sit on X and go, yeah, I do it for you guys. No, you don't. And NASCAR doesn't either. They run a business. They try to make a profit. That's how the world works, and I respect that. But don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Don't act like you're fighting for change so the sport can be better. Yeah, maybe that's what you drum yourself up with and think. But you go, why am I not making the profits I should be? And I'm not arguing you shouldn't make them. I want to make that very clear. But don't lie to me. Don't pee on my face and tell me it's raining. Don't do it. Just don't. Just don't. It's a joke. And I swear, if NASCAR said the same thing, I would be just as upset and go, hey, that is an absolute crock. That is an absolute, it's not true. You might think it's going to help the sport. You might think you're doing it for the boys in the garage. And it's a tougher sell to me. I'm sorry. Michael Jordan has got more money than he knows what to do with. The texts prove that. He spent millions gambling it away. It's not a character assassination, folks. It's just what he said. It's what he said in the text. People don't get it. And they don't understand, and they look at it, and the middle America, the average person, the average Canadian in Freddie's case, maybe Freddie cares a lot about how this turns out, but the average fan, they just go, give me my silly season. Give me my racing. You guys are making plenty of money. Plenty of money. Because overall you are. That is not to say that some of the teams going under, that's not a good thing. Nobody likes that. But it isn't as indicative of a larger issue as they like to make it seem. But I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to digest some of this. And when we come back, we'll give some other thoughts, and then we'll move forward because there's some news to get to both in NASCAR and in IHRA and, of course, NHRA. So do me a great favor. Don't move a move, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Welcome back, folks, to the Racing Angle with Logan Morris. And in case you have missed the start of the show, we're talking about the lawsuit, NASCAR, as some might call it, and what that means in terms of just how it looks publicly, not who's right, who's wrong, legalities, all of that sort of thing. Now, because again, unlike most of the world, I don't pretend to play a lawyer. I'm not going to pretend to play a lawyer. Nope, not going to do it. It's just not, I don't play one on TV. I just don't. All right, Freddie's got a couple of comments for us. We appreciate all of them, Freddie. Keep them coming, brother. He said he just hopes it does get worked out and something comes out of this and NASCAR can get their head out of their own ass. It's pretty sad when they don't care. It bugs me and it doesn't bug me. Right, I get it. I completely respect it. I know what you're talking about because I feel the same way. You go, don't you guys understand how bad this looks? Don't you guys understand just how bad this looks? Not like, because I'm sure, Freddie, you're like me. You're not talking about the legality of it because we don't know the legality of it. There's in the law is technically black and white, but it never seems to be. If a lawyer makes a good argument, then, people get convinced that what's written in black and white, pardon me, it ends up not being black and white. So, Freddie says, I'm a fan and always will. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's how I feel about it. I'll always support and love this sport no matter how this lawsuit pans out. But I just don't. I think you could be hurting the long-term prospects of the sport for a while. We've seen it happen with baseball. In 1994, they went on strike, and it hurt the game. And nobody talks about, well, was it right to go on strike? Was it wrong to go on strike? We just talk about the fact that it hurt the game and fans left. And some of them never came back. And I'm worried that's where we'll be with this. I'm worried that in 10 years we won't go, man, NASCAR lost that charter agreement lawsuit and they got it stuck to them and that's been great. Or, man, Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan lost that lawsuit and that was the way it's supposed to be. Don't tell somebody how to run their sandbox. I'm worried they're going to say things ain't been the same since that lawsuit. That's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm worried about. That's it. How is it viewed as a brand? How is it viewed as an image? And so, that's the way it is. That's the way. You're right, Freddie, because people spend. People are certainly spend in courtrooms. And I'm not putting down lawyers, but that's your job to some extent, right? Like, people spend things. And so, what are the facts? And of course, then what does it mean? No matter who wins what, it's a civil case. So what happens? Things can get stalled legally. We see it all the time. Things can get moved, things can get appealed. Here's the kicker for the sport, people. Here's the kicker. This is all going on. And I'm not saying it's not more important long term. Clearly, it's going to have a big effect on the future of the sport. But we still don't know the playoff format for 2026. And 2026 is coming. It is December 3rd, 2025. And we haven't heard what the playoff format is. Now, maybe the NASCAR brass knows, and they're waiting for the appropriate day to announce it. Maybe they have it all plotted and figured out, and it's good to go. But we don't know it. I'd assume the drivers don't know it. I'd assume the owners don't know it. I'm just. This puts the sport at a standstill and just puts an ugly, ugly light on it, no matter who's right or who's wrong. No matter what. No matter what. Sad, isn't it? You ever have an argument with a family member? and you go, and you have a major war, and maybe you were right, maybe you were wrong, but it reaches a point where we've all lost the plot. I've had that. Where even if you felt you were right, we're going to get you. And that's where we could be here. Because again, it drags NASCAR, it drags 2311, it drags Front Row, it drags the people that are testifying through the mud. It's to some extent it's disgusting how it just makes people look like crappy humans, right? And so that's it's just awful. It just makes them look like crappy humans. Freddie says sometimes it's not easy to accept or admit that you're wrong, but sometimes you have to be the bigger person for the sport. Man, I'm telling you, Kenny Wallace has talked at great length about this is going to burn the house down. And I know some people think that Kenny is, old Herman's a bit of a crackpot, but I worry it's going to burn the house down. Now, does that mean there's not going to be a NASCAR? No, there will be a NASCAR. There will be a Clash. There will be a Daytona 500. There will be all of those things. We will have a season, and it will be a lot of fun. But I do worry that we're hurting the sport for a generation in terms of viewership, and people might walk away, and fans might walk away depending on the outcome of the lawsuit. And what else gets dragged out over the next week or two or however long this trial is going to last. I just worry about how it looks. Again, we'll have NASCAR. They'll race. There'll be a 36 race season, and we'll have plenty of fun and lots to talk about. But are we cutting the nose to spite the face here on both sides? I think there's a great possibility of that. So that's just my opinion. It's just one man's take. Freddie, I appreciate you for being with me and tuning in and talking about it and all those things. What's your take, people, on the NASCAR lawsuit? Not in a who's right or who's wrong sense, but in a how does this look to the public eye? What does it mean for the PR of NASCAR, the brand of NASCAR, and what kind of a black eye is it? Because I think it's a major black eye myself. It's just an ugly situation. It's just an ugly situation. I'm at a loss, and I'm hurt by it. I'm disappointed. Because the fans deserve better. The brand deserves better. The tracks deserve better. The drivers deserve better. The owners deserve better. And again, before anyone gets in the comments now or later and goes, well, that's what Denny's fighting for. No, I'm not talking about money. They make plenty of money. I'm talking about this ugly albatross, the scarlet letter that is this lawsuit and all these discovery text and just the tension that it brings. I mean, can you imagine when Steve Phelps and RC see each other? Even if they shake hands and have one hell of a photo op, we're going to say, you know what that is? Garbage. That's garbage. And it probably is. But we got to move forward. There's other things I got to talk about. So we're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Proc family leaving JFR. There's a new stock car series being built, folks, and we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about some other NASCAR news that was found out in the lawsuit today, in the courtroom today. We're going to talk about it, that and so much more. So we'll be back in just about 2 minutes. This is the Racing Angle with Logan Morris. And don't you move a move. We'll be back real soon. right, folks, welcome back to the Racing Angle with Logan Morris. We've been talking about the lawsuit, and we're going to move forward. But there was one piece of news that came out in the courtroom today. Chris Gabehart is out at Joe Gibbs Racing. Very surprising. He was Denny Hamlin's crew chief for several years, and now he was the director of competition. And Jenna Fryer from the AP confirmed during a break that Chris Gabehart is no longer with JGR. I think that is a pretty massive shakeup. I mean, again, we know how great the success that he and Denny had together were. And then we saw, in my opinion, JGR was the team of the year in 2025. And obviously, I think he played a big part in that, right? As the director of competition, overseeing all of it. Chase Briscoe, what an incredible kind of breakout year he had. And so I think that is huge news. Huge news. I don't think you can really fill those shoes. And I'm sure the coach thinks the same thing. Chris Gabehart has been incredible. So that's going to be very interesting to see how they replace him at the director of competition level. Credit to Jennifer out of the AP for getting on that, for talking all about it. And so just lots of changes. Obviously, you wonder, is there a connection there with the lawsuit and Denny Hamlin? Just odd timing. I'm sure there's no connection, but it is odd timing. I don't have any other thoughts on the lawsuit at this time. We'll probably talk more about it next week. I'm sure we will. There's going to be more to come out. We got to keep moving it along. There was some big news over our 2-week hiatus in the NHRA. The Proc family and John Force Racing parted ways. And what was a stunner? What was a stunner? Austin Proc has won back-to-back Funny Car Championships and was looking like he'd go on a run that might give the boss man a run for his money. And I'm not saying he won't somewhere else, but JFR has got resources that most other teams just don't have. It was stunning to see this news. It started out as a rumor from Drag Illustrated, and I remember posting it, and people were like, "Well, that's got to be fake news. That's got to be garbage. That's got to be clickbait or just false." And right, naturally, your inclination when you see this again coming on back-to-back Funny Car World Championships, yeah, you're thinking, yeah, that's probably garbage, or man, somebody's just got their signals crossed or something. And so, but as it was confirmed by JFR in a press release, man, how do you replace the Proc rocket? And where is Proc going? Now, there's a lot of rumor and innuendo about, oh, he's doing such and such with Tasca. He's doing this. He's doing that. I don't know. When that's official, we'll talk about it. I don't want to give credence to something that ain't there. Obviously, something's cooking, and PRI is coming up next week, and that's in Indy. And I would guess, I have no inside info. I would guess that's where that'll get announced, but who knows? Just as true stunner. Now, they've already bounced back. Alexis DeJoria is coming over to JFR full time in 2026. Man, that's a big step for her. That's a huge step for her. I mean, she's a lifer. What a great opportunity. What an incredible opportunity for her. But there will be some adjustments, I'm sure, right? She's leaving JCM Racing, and clearly JFR is in serious flux. John Force officially called it a day as far as the driver goes. Brittany Force is at least stepping away from the top fuel seat for the foreseeable future, if not forever. Who knows what the future holds. JFR in serious flux, and Producer Peyton and I are still pretty new to the drag racing game, but just when you see a powerhouse like JFR in flux, you go, man, what's going on? Not in a questioning the leadership way, but just one of those, whoa, who would have thought you saw that coming? And maybe John did, maybe John didn't. I mean, business is business is business, right? It's a bit of a fickle world. You got to do what's best for you, and I'm sure that's what Proc is doing. Again, we don't know the future and what the deal is, but I'm just common sense would tell you he's taking a deal that is much better for him, is much better for his family, because again, the entire family is coming with him, Jimmy and Thomas. And you have to believe that clearly they're doing something. They're going to do something where they're not getting that at JFR. Is it money? Is it ownership? Is it a new team? Is it buying into a team? Is it just so much money they can't turn it down? Obviously, those things will come out in time. But when the back-to-back funny car champion kind of up and leaves out of what appeared to be nowhere, boy, it's a head scratcher. But again, they got out Alexis DeJoria, and there's still one more to be announced. Josh Hart will be in the top fuel seat in 2026, and Josh Hart has got all the potential. And now that he's got the resources, I think he's going to do great things. I'm not saying he's going to give Brittany a run for her money in terms of all those speed records she's been setting the last year or two. But he's going to do some great special things. He's gonna win some Wallies this upcoming season. I really believe that 100%. He's talented. He's extremely talented. He's a hard-working, humble guy. Josh Hart is going to make the most of this opportunity. I'm not saying it won't take a little time for adjustment and growth. I'm sure it will. But I'd say by the middle of the season, he'll be clicking. He'll be clicking. We'll be cooking with peanut oil. Just an incredible turn of events. I think Alexis DeJoria are going to do great things. But I think same thing. I think there's going to be growing pains to it. Even if they start out strong, I think there's going to be a point where you go, boy, that's not working as well. Because naturally you're going to compare it to Proc. Naturally you're going to compare it to Brittany. That's just how it works. And we fans, we motorsport fans, we motorsport people, we're some of the most impatient people on planet Earth. We go, well, why aren't they running? Why aren't they getting win lights right now? The Gator Nationals, they'll be screaming for win lights, and maybe they get them. But at some point, there's going to probably be a clunky stretch where, again, adjustments, communication, all those things. Plus, you think about how short the offseason is in all of motorsports. That's not a lot of time for communication. And, hey, here's how I work. Hey, here's how you work. Hey, here's everybody. Here's how this goes. There's not a lot of time for that. And so, to me, it isn't realistic to expect them to just dominate next year, at least the start of it, or not go through a stretch where it doesn't look so great. That's just my thought. It's just my opinion. There's going to be adjustments because while JFR is going to work their ass off to be the top team that they are, it's not like everybody else ain't working too. Everybody else is nipping at the heels, trying to catch and trying to win and trying to beat. Coletta Motorsports is working hard. There's all the teams are busting their hump. There are Ron Cap Motorsports got Matty Gordon coming in. Ron Cap, of course, will be back in the driver's seat in funny car. Like, you don't think they're not constantly working? You don't think AB is not constantly working? Antoine Brown Motorsports? That man is a madman. He's a gladiator, by his own admission. That's his words. He's going to work hard to make it happen. And so if you don't think they're not, like I said, everybody in the pits is working their tail off. Somebody right now for each team is probably putting facts and figures down, looking at data. I'm talking about right now, December 3rd at 7:41 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I guarantee you somebody from everywhere is going, wonder how we can get better next year. Wonder if we can take this and tweak this. Because the thing about being the top dog, and you can make an argument that JFR isn't the top dog, but the thing about being the top dog is you're always trying to be caught up to. Somebody's always nipping at your heels. All right, other news to get to. The IHRA continues to make moves, changes, and they've had two big announcements over the last week. The first one being they're starting a stock car series. That's right, the IHRA is starting a stock car series. Looks like it's going to be mostly the short track circuit. And I'm excited about this, right? Like, I think it's great to give other people opportunities. Now, some people wonder the wild speculation and rumor and innuendo, and the X machine goes, well, did NASCAR, did NASCAR say, hey, start something and we'll help you out? I guess you can never say never, but I'm gonna doubt it. I'm really gonna doubt it. Clearly, Daryl Cattell, the CEO and owner of this version of the IHRA, is trying to make his footprint in everything that he can make his footprint in, and to get the IHRA bigger than they've ever been, even in the glory years. And so for them to start a stock car series, I don't think it's got anything to do with the lawsuit in terms of timing. I think it's more about, I think he sees a window where people are tired. People are tired of the rules of NASCAR, because Lord knows, and I love NASCAR. I support NASCAR. Me and Freddie on the same page when it comes to NASCAR all day long. But I think there's a section of people out there that are tired of all the rules and the nuts and the bolts of NASCAR and how far away from a traditional stock car series it's gotten. Those are not stock cars anymore, folks. They're spec cars. They're Lego pieces, and there's nothing wrong with that. But let's just call it what it is. I also think it'll similar to what they do on the drag racing side. It will present a cheaper option for people that still want to race, but necessarily don't have the funds to go NASCAR racing, or maybe don't want to work under such strict parameters, because NASCAR has very strict parameters these days, as we know. It is no longer anything close to run what you run. It's run what we tell you to bring, and fight for your 10th. Fight for your 10th of a second. And so I think this is exciting. I liked when the SRX was a thing. I think it could be a place where younger drivers and older drivers that, like I said, don't necessarily want to do the grind of NASCAR, but want to pop in for a race or two. I think there's a place you can go. Or, how many people have been priced out of NASCAR? Tons, countless, and that's business. It's been going on since it started in 1949. Like, I'm not necessarily complaining about that. And from a human element, that sucks. But it's been part of NASCAR since NASCAR was born. And so I think it's going to give some guys some cheaper options. Guys that, again, don't want to work under those parameters, or don't have the funds, or don't have, like I said, the patience to work through NASCAR's very much jumping through hoop system these days. I mean, looks like it's going to mostly be kind of late models. And I'm picturing something like the SRX. Maybe it won't be that at all. I have no idea. But we know guys like Joe Nemechek and Bill Elliott still drive on occasion for the right opportunity. Michael Waltrip as well, and a handful of other legendary names. And then we know there's short track ringers all over this country that are trying their darndest to break into NASCAR. But more and more, it's if you don't have the funding to bring with you, you can't get a ride. And so maybe this will be a place where, similar to the Cars Tour, we see guys get an opportunity that maybe necessarily don't have all the funding in the world, but are begging for an opportunity to show their skills. And you never know when you show those skills to the right audience, because this will be seen by somebody that, oh man, look at so and so, he's really out here dominating this IHRA series. Maybe we should take a look at him, take a shot, take a flyer, see if we can get him some sponsorship. I think it's a good thing. I think more options are always a good thing. Now, they're probably not gonna take down NASCAR or make a dent in that sense, and I don't think that's their goal. Their goal was to give, I believe that Daryl Catel's goal is to give people options. To take, because he wants a show. He wants a show. He wants a brand that people can go, man, look what they're doing over there. And I still believe their focus is going to be drag racing 100%. That's where the money's made for the IHRA. That's what they put a lot of. He's not buying all those drag strips to not focus on that. But I think he sees a lane where there's some frustration among the fan base. There's frustration among older drivers. There's frustration amongst younger drivers because they can't, again, get the sponsorship to even really get a look. Sponsorship is a real issue. It's a real issue in NASCAR that it's a bought and paid for seat. I'm not putting that down. We're a money-making world. I get it. But it doesn't mean it's not frustrating. It doesn't mean that people don't deserve better. And so I just personally, I like the fact that there's going to be options. There's going to be options for people. And there needs to be, right? Because not everyone can make it in NASCAR. Not everyone wants to make it in NASCAR. People get, Kenny Wallace still races plenty. Doesn't race in NASCAR. That doesn't mean he doesn't race. It doesn't mean he doesn't count. It just isn't under that umbrella. Freddie says SRX was awesome, which was still around. Completely agree. I thought it was a nice alternative. A little Thursday Night Thunder. And maybe you see Tony Stewart get involved in this sort of deal. Who knows, right? We'll see what happens. But I like that there's some options here. I like that there's some things. Speaking of other things the IHRA is doing, they named a new president, Leah Martin. Pretty historic to have a female president in the world of motorsports. There's the rumored 2026 schedule. It looks like it's going to be 10 races. Again, that is the rumored schedule. A lot of it they're going to be all over the country. I mean, down south, Alabama, New York. There's a New York race on there. They, of course, will be back in Ohio a couple times, it looks like. Do you want to point out that it's not confirmed for the drag racing schedule? I do want to point that out. They're a growing organization. They're trying to figure things out. And so until it's official, it's not official. But the IHRA is buying tracks like they're going to the chair. So, I mean, they're going to make some noise in both, especially drag racing and probably with the stock car series. They're going to make some noise. And that's great. That's great options for racers. That's great options for fans. Maybe you don't have the money to go see the NHRA or NASCAR live. God knows everything's expensive these days. And maybe the IHRA provides a cheaper alternative to not only racers, but to fans. And boy, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice if somebody cares that it's an affordable ticket? And I'm not saying that NASCAR and NHRA don't. But we're getting nickeled and dimed to death in the world today. And so a cheaper option is a good thing. Maybe it won't be a cheaper option, but based on how the first season of the IHRA went, I think it will be. Say what you want about the IHRA, but anytime there was a rain out, they let them come back in for free the next day. Can't get much better than that. Can't get much better than that. And again, I'm not putting down the NHRA. I'm not putting down anybody. But credit to Daryl Cattell and the brass for making it affordable. And again, if weather didn't help you out and got postponed, you can come on back in and no big deal. No big deal. So many times there was, because the weather was, you want to end the drought, hold a dry race. So many times it was a Saturday rain delay, and then come on back in Sunday for free, or a Friday rain delay, come on back in Saturday for free, even if you didn't have the ticket. I mean, that's big time. That's big time. I can't knock that. But new president Leah Martin, obviously she's going to oversee everything. And my goodness, does she have a job? Because you got the stock car series, you got the drag racing series. They're buying up several drag racing series around the country. They also have the boat racing series. She's got a job. She's got one hell of a job to do. So credit to her. And credit to the IHRA for what they're doing. As we come to a close here in this week's episode of the Racing Angle, I want to take our final break. We come back, we're going to have some final thoughts, and we're gonna tell you about some Chase Elliott news, and then we'll close it out, and then we'll see you next week. So let's take one more break, and we'll see you in just a few minutes. Folks, welcome in to what is essentially our final lap together this week as we close out another great show. Some other news to get to before we bid farewell. Universe is sponsoring Chase Elliott in 5 races during the 2026 season. They continue that relationship. Great to see that. Looked like a sweet car. And speaking of a sweet car, his 2026 Napa scheme does look good. Nice to see the white coming back. Obviously, it doesn't get more sponsored than Chase Elliott. There's a guy that has a ride and is completely booked full for the most part, I'm sure. So great for him. We'll see what the whole format and year looks like. That is still baffling to me that we don't know that. We'll probably do a whole hour on what the format looks like when that gets announced. So, to recap, we've discussed the lawsuit in full, and like I said, how it looks. Not the legality of it, not here to play a lawyer, but how it looks. The Proc family moving away from JFR. The IHRA continuing to make moves, starting the stock car series of their own, and naming a new president, and potentially a rumored schedule. And so we have to look ahead. And so with that, let's look at our lap ahead. And let's take a look at our countdown clock. We got a countdown clock to the Clash. Now, I know Daytona is it. Daytona is it, don't get me wrong. But the Clash is the first race of the season. It's an exhibition, but looky there. We're just 60 days, 3 minutes, 28 seconds and counting. We're not far. We're not far, folks. We're not far. The Clash is coming February 1st, 2026 at Bowman Gray. Great to be back at Bowman Gray. We're looking forward to seeing that just because what a historic venue. The King got his 100th win at Bowman Gray. So wouldn't it be nice to see a Legacy Motor Club car potentially in victory lane at the Clash at Bowman Gray? We shall see. But that is what we have to look forward to. Next week, we'll talk more of the courtroom chaos because there will be more news. PRI coming up this weekend, so there's going to be a lot of drag racing news. So you're going to want to stay tuned to our YouTube channel. We're going to get back to doing those videos. We took some time over the holiday to relax and breathe and debrief and enjoy some good food. And so there's going to be a lot of news coming from PRI, I'm sure. Looking forward to covering that virtually. We'll post videos. Like I said, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a like on the socials. And look, no matter how all these lawsuits go, no matter how anything goes, we'll have racing in 2026. We'll have great racing in 2026 from the NHRA, from the IHRA. That's right, Snowball Derby is this weekend as well. We're going to pay some good attention to that and tell you about the winners. So a lot is coming up. Rolex 24 is not that far away. Rolex 24 at Daytona. And so, look, we ain't got long, folks. It's coming. Coming up here in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start some team previews for NASCAR and, talking about what 2026 could look like for a Joe Gibbs, for a Rick Hendrick, for a Legacy Motor Club, for all the teams, hopefully. We're going to do some team previews as we get deeper here into the offseason, and especially, like I said, as we hit January and get closer to the start of the season. So with that, Freddie, I want to thank you for tuning in. Anyone listening on YouTube in the future, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for taking an hour of your time. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you to producer Peyton for being back there on the ones and twos. And look, we'll get through this off season together. It's going to be all right. We'll be right back here next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And again, we'll talk all the courtroom chaos. We'll talk about other news that breaks from PRI and just so many other things. It might be a little slow on the silly season front, but it's not slow in a lot of others. So just stick with us and we'll see what happens. And until next time, thank you for taking a listen. Hit that subscribe button for me, and we'll see you at the next track.